guys, I am Cherie Burbach. I'm a writer and artist, and I want to talk to you today about developing a regular creative practice and one way that I do that. You might think that you need a lot of money or time or art supplies or any of that type of stuff to have a regular creative practice. But I'm here to tell you, you don't need to spend a lot of money on art supplies. You don't need a lot of them. They're fun to have, but you don't need that for a regular creative practice. One way that I do a creative practice on a regular basis, and the reason I think this is important is because, it gets you in that mindset where you're creating even when you're at work, even when you're shopping, even when you're doing your to-do list and all that kind of stuff. It gets you thinking about creativity and what you can uniquely bring to the world. And I think that's important. So here's what I do is I take this inexpensive watercolor set. This is something I got at the craft store for, I think it was $2.50. So they have, different types of watercolor sets at the dollar store, at craft stores, whatever kind of set you have, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many colors are in it. Watercolors are a great way to develop a creative practice because they're readily available. You can use them on a variety of surfaces. And they also have easy travel watercolor sets, which I think is great. So if you're in, waiting for your kids in line at the school bus or, at the beach or wherever you're at, you can also fit in this type of practice. So I'm going to show you what I do is I take my watercolors and a art journal, and I mean any kind of art journal. Even sometimes I use notebook paper, whatever I got. When I say art journal, it's really any piece of paper. And just create something simple that then if you do this on a regular basis, it'll help you get in that mindset of imagination and creativity. So grab your watercolors, a paintbrush, doesn't matter what kind, and some water, a piece of paper, and I'll show you what I do to help me end the day on a positive note and get some creativity in. I am a firm believer that you don't need a lot of money to create art or time. So for that, this is a practice you could do at the end of the night just to get your creativity out, get yourself putting some pigment on paper. I've got my art journal, some watercolor paint. This is cheap watercolor paint that I got at a craft store. You could use any kind of watercolor paint, doesn't matter. Water, and I've got some brushes. I have 3 round brushes. These are sable brushes, which tend to work well with watercolor, but use what you have, whatever you have. I got this art journal. I put lots of stuff in my art journals, but I'm gonna find a clean page. And I wanna create just a girl. I like creating girls with flowers and angels and all different kinds of girls. And I'm gonna just do this with watercolor. Now what I'm doing is just taking the paintbrush, putting it in water, and just getting these pigments kind of what I call activated. Just putting some water on them so that when we dip back in, they'll be ready to go on our paper, cooperate with us. You don't have to do them all at once, whatever you feel like you're gonna use. I'm using this larger round brush. I'm taking this kind of tan color to start. Now with watercolor, one thing, this is mixed media paper. So, you could use watercolor paper, which would handle this very well. This is just type of paper that handles a variety of different pigments. And what I'm gonna do is just draw a little line like that, kind of a half circle. With watercolor, when you draw an original water line like this, the paint then follows that line, which is an interesting thing. So I'm gonna leave this kind of like half circle type thing. When I'm drawing a girl, of course, she would have a round head, but I'm gonna put some, hair over it. So I'm just gonna leave it as a half circle. And I'm moving that watercolor around. Wherever I see it pooling, I'm just kind of moving it around so we have one kind of thin coat. Now I'm going to take a complementary color. One thing to note, if you have a set of paints like this and you want to know what color might go with what color, generally the way they position them, if you have a color like this, if you move one over, it tends to go well. And I don't usually go diagonal, I mean one over like that. So I use this color. Let me see what this color would look like. And I want to use this for just some shading. Ooh, I like that. It's a nice color. So let me add some more water and smooth that out and just blend it in. So we're giving her face a little bit more pigment, giving it a little bit of shading. We have that dark line that could signify, you know, the outline of her face. Really like that. Let me go down and create a neck for her. Same type of thing. I'm drawing an initial line where the water will follow, and then I'm smoothing it out. And I'm going to go to that same color and do some shading. So within just a moment, you have what you can tell is going to be a girl. It's there. Let's get started on her face a little bit. So I'm going to do a closed eye for her. And I might use just a smaller brush. Next size. We're doing some features. We want something smaller. I'm attracted to this blue and this purple, these two colors. And what I'm doing is getting the paint activated, putting some water in there, and then blotting on my paper towel. Because I don't want a lot of water because I've already got some on here. I just want to add some pigment. Take some water off again. And I'm going to take that initial line and I'm going to take whatever I have for pigment on there and just smooth it all out. Look at that. So smoothing out whatever happens to pool. I'm pushing it to the edges to create darker pigment. Look at that, nice. And then you're seeing those closed eyes are developing. I'm going to go back to this little brownish tan type of thing. And I'm just getting it wet, but then dabbing off. And I want to draw a nose. So when I'm doing a face, I draw the nose right from one of the eyes, right in the center and down. A lot of ways you can do noses. You could do the nose straight on. I'm doing kind of a side nose here. Let me get some darker pigments. And we'll give her some nostrils. Let this girl breathe a little bit. Oop. Now, if you do that where you have a little block, you can always remove it. If you have too much water, you can remove it. Watercolor is a little bit fussy, but it's also workable. I got one long hair on that brush that's sticking out, causing me some problems. So I'll take that off. So I have this line for her nose. Let me soften it a little with the tan color pigment. And again, I got a little bit on there. I'm gonna dab it. Look how lovely that watercolor responds. That watercolor's like, I'm not fussy. A lot of people find watercolor very fussy, and a lot of people love it. I love it because it's inexpensive. And you know what? If I just want to get some creativity in at the end of the day, I've had a busy day, oh, I'm stressed, you know, those types of days. you just sit down with your watercolors, which are inexpensive, your art journal, which is just for playing and creating. You're making something just for you. I think it's very healthy to use watercolor to just create whatever. And if you don't like it, you paint over it next time. Doesn't matter. In the meantime, you spent some time getting into your creative juices. And have you ever spent time creating something where you walked away and felt like that wasn't worth it? I certainly haven't. When you're done, you always feel better. So I'm drawing just a little bit of a lip here. I have kind of a V, and then I take that line and connect it. It's just a little bit of a pursed lip. I'm going to take this pink that's here. I'm going to give her a little bit of a rosy cheek. This is our Whimsical girl, so we can make her look like anything that we want. But I say let's make her look happy. She's got a very rosy cheek there. I'm going to dab the edge of that watercolor just a bit. Very nice. Smooth that out. When you're working with watercolor, one thing I like to do is have that paper towel nearby just to continue dabbing. So we've got our girl, her features are sitting there. I'm going to put some eyelashes and all that on her in a second, but let's get some hair on her. I'm going to go for our bigger brush. And what kind of hair do we want for her? Got some red. Got some of this brownish color, which I really love. We could also go whimsical, create blue hair. Oh, I like that idea. Let's do it. So we've got that blue that we used for her eyes. We've got this blue, got this darker purple blue. I'm going for the darker purple blue. So I'm activating it. It's got quite a bit of water on it, actually. And so I'm going to dab. Get myself a fresh paper towel. And let's get some hair. And by hair, I mean something whimsical and fun. This is our world, remember? So we don't have to worry about whether this hair is found in nature. Purple swirly hair. Kind of wish it was though, right? I mean, how fun would that be? So I'm just drawing big swirls. She's got fun, colorful hair. You already know this girl is fun just by how crazy her hair is. That's the way I look at it. So I've got some initial just swirls. So this is edge of the water on each of these. You draw edge of the water, you fill in, the water the pigment stays within that edge. Got the initial swirls, but she needs a couple highlights in there, right? That's what I'm thinking. So let's go to this blue up here, and I'm going to add some highlights. Again, following that initial water line. I'm going to blend in a second, but right now I'm just putting the initial pigment down, wiping off the excess, and then just going back over it to blend. Already, this gives it a little bit of depth. Just a different amount of pigment. We'll start over here this time. Swirls. Simple paint strokes. Nothing about, you know, doing a portrait that looks like something from real life. This is just a fun getting out your creativity. Fun project like that. So again, I'm going to clean off my paintbrush, wipe it off a little, and just softly blend some of these colors. I'm liking that. I'm gonna leave that a second. Let's work on this area. What should we do for this area? I say, let's give her a pretty dress of some kind. I love the red. I like this red below that red too. It's really standing out for me. So I'm gonna wipe that off a little bit. I'm gonna draw an initial line where I just have the hint of some shoulders and a neckline. It's very simple. Did the initial waterline. I'm just gonna go and fill in. I've got the pigment on the edge and I'm just taking it and moving it around. There's plenty of water on my brush already, so I'm moving that pigment around. There's gonna be spots where it pools because this is mixed media paper and it's a little bit wavy. That's fine. This is our like watercolor art journal girl. You know, we're not gonna sell this. We're not gonna put it in a gallery. It's just our fun, like I came home today and just created something fun type of piece. So we've got that. I say let's give her a little collar or something like that. You think? Keep going back to that red, my goodness. I might have to use it. I keep going back to it. Give her a little bit of a collar. Very simple. And we'll give her some buttons to match. Why not? So in looking at all this, this is this fun girl who already I'm just like loving. I'm gonna use a smaller round brush. So I have two sizes here and I'm gonna take just the one size down. Actually, no, I'm taking the smaller size, changed my mind as soon as I said it. And now I'm gonna go into this dark black color because I wanna give her eyes a little bit of some definition. So I'm just activating the paint, getting some water on there and then wiping my brush off because I don't want a lot of water on this piece of it. So trying not to put my sleeve in this because it's still a little wet. But I'm going to go up here and I'm going to follow her eye line gently and give her a little bit of some lashes so we can tell this girl has her eyes closed. We'll go back to this eye. You can turn your art journal if you need, turn your paper. And you can use any type of paper. I mean, you really can. You could use a notebook paper. This is your playtime. And it helps you see how watercolor reacts, how pigments interact. So even when you're playing, it's valuable creative time. I don't think there's ever a moment where creativity is just a waste of time. Have I said it? I've said it. I'll say it again. So now I'm looking at this purple because I've got these and they're blended. It's lovely. I want some more definition on those little swirls. So I'm activating the pigment, wiping off my brush, and I kind of want a little bit of dot and maybe just a couple more swirls. If I have areas of white, I leave them. It's kind of interesting to have the white. So I'm doing a couple and my brush is kind of fairly dry. And I'm going to add just a little bit of water and just soften just slightly. Because what I want this to do is blend in a little bit so it doesn't look like just a line, but I want it to give it definition. Just like that. remember, we came home from work, stressed, had a bunch of meetings today. You know, those days, big line, picking up the kids from school, whatever it is. And we just want to do something for ourselves that's nice, something that gives us that space where we zone out, we think about nothing. We just think about how pigments interact. We don't think about our to-do list. We just allow our mind to kind of go with wherever it's going, which when you're doing creativity like this is always kind of a better place than where it is when you're thinking of your to-do list, what you got to do next, work and issues and stuff that we're all juggling. You don't have to think about that. Right now, you just think about how that pigment's interacting, how that purple looks against that blue, how your paint brush feels in your hand as you move water and pigment around. I'm loving her little purple hair. Love it. And I think since we have a little bit of white space, this is just something I'm adding, I think I want to put some kind of message to myself. It's been that kind of day. So why don't I say, what color should we take for this? I think the purple. We just used it. I like it. I am going to say she, in hand lettering, you don't need to worry about what it looks like. She found peace. That's what creativity gives us. She found peace. A few minutes, simple watercolor set. We have something to make us happy.